Now I'd like to talk to you about job interviews, focused on some of the tips which appear in my book, Knockout Interview. A lot of people believe that the best strategy for coping with a job interview is to improvise, make it up when you get there, respond to questions as they're fired at you and think on your feet. That is quite a dangerous strategy because it means you can go in with half-prepared evidence, or sometimes you find it really difficult to think of good examples when you're under pressure. Don't believe in the myth that most job interview questions are unpredictable. Yes, you might be asked one or two quite strange questions just to test your character or your sense of humour, but 80 to 90% of job interview questions are around very predictable things like job content, like your knowledge of the organisation, your knowledge of the sector, your motivation to actually take the job, and also what you can deliver in the first 100 days. Organisations are now looking for people who can hit the deck running, can learn fast, and are adaptable in a rapidly changing situation. So what's the first thing you can do? Well, obviously the first thing you do is to prepare. Everybody will tell you that, but preparation is something which people give half their attention to. My simple tip for you today is to take an A4 piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, and on the left-hand side write down what you believe is the employer's shopping list. What are they actually looking for? Interrogate job advertisements, job descriptions, but ideally also talk to people in the industry, people who know the organisation, and ask the question, what are they really looking for? What really matters? What kind of people get hired? And what kind of people do well? Once you've got what you believe is the employer's shopping list, and it's not that hard to get, on the right-hand side, write down your matching evidence. So that comes to the second point. What kind of evidence? Well, the best evidence comes in story form. People remember stories a lot longer than they remember information. And they remember colourful, motivated, energised stories a lot longer than ordinary stories. So for each of the things that you would like to talk about, each skill or area of knowledge or personality facet that you want to evidence in the interview room, prepare a short story. And I really do mean short. I mean 90 seconds to 2 minutes as a maximum. Start with have a simple structure in mind, a challenge or a problem that you had to overcome, what you personally did about it, and what the outcome was. And if you want something a little bit more sophisticated, you can always talk about what you would do differently next time, what you learned from the experience. So go into an interview room with a whole set of stories in the back of your mind, so that when you're asked a probing question or asked a competency-based question or something which really tests your ability to do the job, you don't have to access memory and shape something brand new. All you're doing is pulling down a little box from the back of your memory, and that's got a short, intact, well-presented story in it. And if you're worried about making it too short, then just ask the question, does that cover it? Do you want me to add to that? Should I give you some more details? Most of the time, if an organisation hears good evidence that you have a skill, they'll move on to the next question. And my last tip really is about the way you come across. When you go into an interview, try to leave props behind that make you look like a visitor. So your coat, maybe your bag, leave all those in reception if you can. If you're on Zoom, look like somebody who already works there. Think about the dress code and maybe of the organisation, and maybe just take it up a couple of notches. But whatever you do, try to look like you fit in. And try to think about the way that you come across in the first few seconds of an interview. So if it's an online interview, try to be open, clear, friendly, easy to talk to. And the same thing is true exactly if you're in the interview room. And then think about the fact that in an interview, you are remembered for the first thing you do and the last thing you do more than anything else. So opening impressions we've talked about. So how do you make a good impression at the end of the interview? Well, when somebody says, do you have any questions for us? Please don't say, no, everything's been covered very nicely. Have some great questions. Not obvious questions that you could have discovered the answers to yourself by spending 20 seconds on the internet. No, questions about the future of the job. What will I learn? What challenges will I face? What opportunities will I have to extend my knowledge? When will I take on more responsibility? And so on. So questions which help the employer picture you doing the role. Once you've created a positive picture like that, it's very hard to shake. There is no perfect interview technique, but there are lots of ways of improving and lots of things that you can practice to get better results.